Thank you. Thank you, Abigail. It's such a pleasure to be there with you in Leytonstone. I do remember that church building very much. Remember when it was bought by Pastor Holder all those years ago. And so I'm just delighted to be able to come on this platform with you. As Abigail says, we are living in Spain, and I'm looking outside and we have some lovely sunny weather here. God is truly good. And I'm delighted. I was also very pleased to see the children taking part in the program this afternoon, because the things that we're going to talk about, we need to target the children. We need to be speaking to the next generation, because they are the ones who will make the change. If our parents will really take hold of these principles and pass it on to their children, then I really believe that we're in a good position. So thank you very much for the invitation to be there with you. I'm going to share my screen with you at this time. Okay, so our subject is how to live longer, live healthier, longer, and happier. And I believe that that's the desire of all of us, isn't it? So I'm here on Unocenta Farm. And just to tell you a little bit about that name, Unocenta. Unocenta is really a joining together of two Spanish words, uno for one, and ochenta for 80. And it means 180, and we want people when they come to this place to go through a 180-degree experience, a 180-degree change in their lives. And when we were looking for a name for what we do, we wanted 180, and when we looked it up, we discovered that there were so many businesses with that title of 180 that we felt that we needed something unique, something different. We were in Spain, so we thought, yeah, let's just look at 180, but from a Spanish context. And we have had people telling us that's not a Spanish word, Pastor, you can't use that word, but we've stuck to it. And it gives us an opportunity also, because people come and they say, well, what does Unocenta mean? And we're able to then explain to them, because I myself have gone through a 180-degree transformation in my own life when it comes to my health. And also, I would say that we want people to go through a 180-degree spiritual experience when they come here as well. So let's just bow our heads as we begin. Father in heaven, just want to thank you so much for your goodness. We thank you for your love. Thank you for the opportunity to be able to share with the Leytonstone Church this afternoon. I invite your presence to be with us. Take the words of my mouth and the meditation of our hearts, Father. May they be acceptable in your sight. In the name of Jesus, we do pray. Amen. Right, so a young man was having a Bible study with his pastor, and they were talking about the earth made new. And the pastor shared this text, Revelation 21:4, and God shall wipe away every tear from their eyes. There shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying. There shall be no more pain, for the former things have passed away. And the inhabitants will not say, I am sick. Isaiah chapter 33 and verse 24, as we look forward to the earth made new, notice how Isaiah says, the inhabitants will not say, I am sick. And we wish we could say that now, don't we? That is the desire of all our hearts, that we would not have to go through the veil of sickness that we all go through here in this life. And here the young man turned to the pastor and he says, I don't want to wait for it to happen then, Pastor. I would like to have it here and now. And we can all say amen to that. We want to be able to enjoy the good life now. And, health is priceless. How many of us have, been touched by death, been touched by sickness? It's so sad. We see a picture here of a young child who's suffering from cancer, obviously, and we wish that we wouldn't have to go through that. I think that every one of us can say that we have seen individuals, whether in our family or close friends or friend of a friend, who have been affected by ill health and death. And notice what God says, 3 John 1 verse 2, beloved, I pray that you may prosper in all things and be in health, just as your soul prospers. And so God's desire for every one of us is that we should prosper and be in health. And Jesus himself said, I have come that they may have life and that they may have it more abundantly. And so every one of us want to have an exuberant, healthy lifestyle. Without a shadow of a doubt, we want to have dynamic health, vibrant health, whatever you call it. And that's what the Bible promises to us if we are to follow and to do what God says to us. If you diligently heed the voice of the Lord your God and do what is right in his sight, give ear to his commandments and keep his statutes, I will put none of the diseases on you which I brought on the Egyptians, for I am the Lord who heals you. And while we desire to have good health, I want to suggest to you this afternoon that we really want to have good health, but we want to have it on our own terms. I want to be able to eat what I want, when I want, and still have good health. I want to be able to go to bed however late I want to, and still have good health. I want to be able to do what I want. I don't want to have to exercise. I don't want to have to exert myself. I just want good health. And we think that that's what God has promised to us. But I want to know, if you will diligently, look at what the text says, if you will diligently heed the voice of your Lord, the Lord your God, if you will do what is right in his sight, if you will give ear and keep all his statutes, so there is a requirement from the Lord on our part that there is a role that we need, first of all, to pay attention, and then to do what is right, and then to keep, so do and to keep. And then God says, if you will do that, I'll put none of these diseases on you, which I've brought on the Egyptians, for I am the Lord who heals you. And so many of us, we're like the young man in the parable of the wedding garment, who came to the supper, the marriage supper of the Lamb, and he was wearing his own garment. He wanted to be at the wedding supper, but he wanted to come on his own terms. And the master said, well, I'm sorry, but that's not acceptable. And notice this statement there, Psalm 105 and verse 37, and there was none feeble among his tribes. And in fact, the Bible talks about Moses, that when he died, his eyes were not dim, his strength was not abated. What a way to go. So God has made some promises to us, and we can enjoy the blessings of good health if we would follow what God has said we should do. Now, Hippocrates, the father of modern medicine, based on his observations, said that all disease begins in the gut. Okay? All disease begins in the gut. So up until that time, there was this feeling that if somebody got sick, this was the result of the gods. And we see this being played out in the book of Job, for example. So when Job's three friends came to visit him, they were saying to Job, well, the reason all this calamity has happened to you, all your businesses have been wiped out, all your children have been killed, Job, it's because of you. You're a bad man. It's because of things that you've done. And so those were the views up until Hippocrates, through observation, says no, we are the reason. The reason why people get sick, it's because of their own actions, the things that they do. So that has to do with the mind, it has to do with the will, and I will come back to that a little later. So notice this statement, and I'm introducing it quite earlier on, Dr. Jensen's Guide to Better Bowel Care, and he says, to take care of inherent weaknesses, we must take care of the whole person, but always the bowel first. If we take good care of the bowel, we can make the most of it and have better health as well. So the bowel is king. And if we take care of the king, he will take care of his kingdom, which is our body. And I have to say to you, beloved, that one of the things that we take care of the least is the bowel, because we put all kinds of rubbish into our stomachs. We are eating all kinds of things that are designed to make us ill. And so as we're talking about this afternoon, how to live healthier and to live longer, then clearly one of the first things that we must be thinking about doing is to look after the bowel, because once you look after the bowel, then the bowel will take care of everything else. So an underactive colon, where the process of elimination is too slow, will result in a diseased body. Dr. Paulian makes the following point: the speediest way to gain health is to stimulate the eliminating organs to eliminate poisonous substances and to avoid poisonous substances. And so, saying that the speediest way to gain health is to stimulate the eliminating organs, you may find that if you're having a bowel movement once every 2 days, once every 2 or 3 days, then you know that you're looking at a diseased body, because all that toxic waste is staying in the body and it is poisoning the system. So ideally, if you're having 2 meals a day or 3 meals a day, then we should be eliminating as often in order to make sure that the system is clean. But because we're eating the wrong foods, we're eating refined foods, we're eating fried foods and so on, we're not eliminating as quickly and as often as we should. And therefore, as a consequence, we get sick. So impure conditions within the body are the primary cause of disease, and germs are the secondary cause. So here we go, then we're going right back to that statement from Hippocrates that disease begins in the gut. And you know, beloved, let me just say to you this afternoon that the most abused organ in the body is the stomach. Why? Because we are constantly eating. We may get up at 8 o'clock and we have breakfast. Then by 10 o'clock, again at work, we're having tea and biscuits. And then at lunchtime, which is between 12:30 and 1, we're having lunch. And then 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we're having tea and biscuits again. And then at 6 o'clock in the evening, when we get home, we are having our dinner. And on the way home, we're chomping on a chocolate bar. And then some of us may even have tea and biscuits again at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock before we go to bed. And so the poor stomach is tired. Your digestive system is compromised because it takes about 4 to 5 hours to digest a meal. And every time you introduce something else into the body, you're starting that process all over again. And that meal is not being properly digested, and we become sick. And one of the worst culprits for this are our children. You know, our children, they come to the dining table, they don't want to eat, and we allow them. You know, they're very fussy in the way they eat, and they don't want this and they don't want that. And so an hour later, we're giving the poor dears something else because they didn't eat at the dining table. Parents, I have to say to you, it's all your fault. So we need to be training our children to eat at the dining table. And when my children were growing up, my wife's rationale was, if you don't eat now at the dining table, then you will meet it again at the next meal. And we would not encourage them to eat between meals. And so trust me, your children will not die if you insist that they eat at the dining table, and then, between meals, they can have a drink, they can have fruit juice and so on, but they should not really be eating between meals. And so I came across this poster as I was preparing my dissertation, and it's an interpretation from German: listen to your gut, taste is king. And how many of us operate on that particular premise? Taste is king. And it's true for most of us, because all of us like to taste good food. And I remember when I was pastoring in South Africa, we had an international day. And so we had all these various countries that were attending the church. And I came to one of the particular stalls, and they had this thing. It was made from peanuts and spinach, and somebody said, "Taste it, taste it." And I said, "No, in my head, peanuts and spinach. No, that's really not the kind of thing that you put together." And so they encouraged me to taste this, and it was absolutely delicious. And I realized that God has made us to appreciate nice tasting food, and that really is the litmus test. If I taste something and I don't like it, I'm not going to eat it. And so, in truth, taste is king. The gut should not be king, but we really ought to listen to the mind. The mind should really dictate to us what we eat, because if we listen to our gut, then we're going to put all kinds of things in it. And so here is just a sample, and notice what the wise man Solomon said, and this is in reflection. Solomon says, "Whatever my eyes desired, I did not keep from them. I kept my heart from no pleasure, for my heart found pleasure in all my toil, and this was my reward for all my toil." What a terrible statement. What a terrible statement, because you cannot live your life with that particular philosophy. But Solomon had the wealth, he had the money, he had the power, and so he said, whatever I set my eyes on, whatever I wanted, I just gave into it. So whether it was the women, and that Solomon had 300 wives and 700 concubines, I don't know how anybody could keep up with that. Don't even know if he remembered all their names. And then, we are governed by the kind of foods, So I remember when I had my struggles, one of my biggest struggles in terms of food was giving up macaroni cheese. I knew that I shouldn't be eating cheese, and pledged to give up cheese so many times. But whenever I came to the church potluck and I saw that macaroni cheese, it had my name written on it. And so I would give in. But I want you to notice here, these are the things that make us sick. My favorite meal in that bottom left-hand corner, there was the Indian meal. I just loved Indian food, the rice, the chana tikka masala, and yet it was so full of fat and very rich saturated fats. This was very, very unhealthy food, but I just loved it, and the white rice, so highly glycemic, really not the sort of thing that you should be eating if you are planning on having a healthy lifestyle. So the gut should not dictate the choices that we make. Now, let me just, okay. So I just want to say a little about this, beloved, because you see here a lot of foods that we love. And many people, this will be their go-to kind of meal. It's breadcrumbs and the chips and so on. We love all these kinds of foods. And I want you to notice the chicken here, and whether you jerk it up or it's barbecued, this is highly unhealthy foods. And I'm going to share with you the reason why it's unhealthy. The charcoal, if this is done on a barbecue or you're doing it in jerk, then that charcoal is if you have 2 pounds of steak that has been barbecued, it's the equivalent of smoking 600 cigarettes. That's a phenomenal amount of cigarettes, and you are damaging your health. So barbecued food and jerk food is totally unhealthy. And so whether you are putting the raw flame on it, if you're putting on the raw flame on it, then clearly the benzopyrene in it is going to damage your health, and we need to think clearly, think more about how we do our foods. So whether it's vegetables, whether you're doing your corn, whether it's your roasted vegetables, this is not a good way of preparing food at all. But these are the foods that we love, the refined foods, the fried foods. Notice the bread, and if I'm speaking to a West Indian community, then the hard dough bread, there is no goodness in that bread, in the white dumpling. There is no goodness in the bun and the cheese. But these are the foods that we love, and these are the foods that is dictated to us by the eyes and by the gut and the super malt. Think about the sugar, think about the caramelized ammonia, which none of these things are good for us. The best drink that you can be having is water, beloved. And the super malt is the Adventist beer. I know that is our go-to, and I think that having a super malt once in a while is not going to kill you. But I used to have this the crate in my garage, and this was the thing that I was drinking a lot of. And I must confess that the hard dough bread was not something that we bought a lot of, but once in a while we would go there. When you fry your foods, you are introducing free radicals into your system. And so we need to think about the way in which we do our food. And, someone has said that every time you sit down at the dining table, you're either fighting disease or you're curing disease. And so we need to think very, very clearly about that. So many make a mistake in drinking cold water with their meals. Food should not be washed down, taken with meals. Water diminishes the flow of saliva, and the colder the water, the greater the injury to the stomach. Okay, and so if you were to come here to the farm, one of the things that we ensure is that there is no beverage on the table at all. When you sit down to the meal, there's absolutely no need for you to be having that drink, because it dilutes the gastric juices, it reduces the amount of saliva that contains those digestive enzymes, and so it results in poor digestion. Notice, food should not be washed down. No drink is needed with meals. Eat slowly and allow the saliva to mingle with the food. The more liquid there is taken into the stomach with the meal, the more difficult it is for the food to digest, for the liquid must first be absorbed. Do not eat largely of salt. Give up bottled pickles. Keep fiery food out of your stomach. And so as we think about these things, and I'm not sharing with you this afternoon anything new. These are all things that we are aware of, but we get ourselves into a kind of practice, into a habit, And these habits are very difficult for us to give up. But I am talking to you this afternoon about how to live healthier and longer. And every one of us would agree that's what we desire. So digestion begins in the mouth, so when we smell that food, when you smell the food being prepared, the brain has a way of sending certain messages. The salivary glands send a message to the gustatory cortex in the brain, telling it that food is coming. And the gustatory cortex in turn sends a message to the mouth and the stomach to release digestive enzymes and hydrochloric acid in preparation for what is coming. Now, just an aside, this is one of the reasons why you should not be chewing gum. So when you chew gum, you are sending a message to the stomach to expect food. And so the stomach releases that hydrochloric acid and nothing comes because you are chewing gum and you have a way then of beginning to wear away at that stomach lining. And so chewing gum is an unhealthy practice. So notice when you have taken your food, it goes into the fundus. It's in the holding position in the stomach, and the fundus secretes a protein digesting enzyme known as pepsinogen, and that is part of the digestive process. So regularity in eating should be carefully observed. Nothing should be eaten between meals, no confectionery, nuts, fruits, or food of any kind. Irregularities in eating destroys the healthful tone of the digestive organs to the detriment of health and cheerfulness. And let me just back up here, because while the food is waiting there in the body, so it comes down through the esophagus and it's waiting there. When you take a drink into that area that dilutes the digestive enzymes, it means then that the food stays in that area longer. And if you've taken in a lot of pathogens with your meals, let's say you've eaten a very heavy meat dinner or whatever it is, those pathogens, instead of being digested and burnt up by the hydrochloric acid, you've already diluted that hydrochloric acid. It's not able to do its job and function, and therefore those pathogens seep across the gut wall and into the bloodstream, thereby creating disease. So, and when the children come to the table, they do not relish wholesome food that appetites crave, which is hurtful to them. So let me just go over that again. Irregularities in eating destroys the healthful tone of the digestive organs to the detriment of health and cheerfulness. So what happens very often is that we're giving snacks to our children, we're allowing them to eat between meals, and then when they come to the table, they do not relish wholesome food. I remember going to Cornwall while I was the president, down there for a function, and sat at the table with this little girl, and I was just so amazed. This little girl, I mean, she must have been about 5 years old, but there was carrots and peas and all kinds of vegetables on her plate. And this child was just busily munching through all this thing. And I could not believe what I was seeing, but that's because she had been trained by her parents to eat and to appreciate healthy foods, so it really is up to us as parents. Notice what she says: no nuts, no fruits, or food of any kind. And so we just need to know when it is we are going to give healthy, nutritious food to our children. And here are the foods that we love. And beloved, the Bible reminds us that the life of the animal is in the blood. And one of our objectives ought to be that we are seeking to make pure blood in order to stay healthy. And if you are living on baked beans, anything in a tin, we talk about processed foods. So if you're taking your foods from a tin, then your nutrition is compromised. If you see these box cereals here, Rice Krispies, cornflakes, shredded wheat, Weetabix, these are all junk. These are processed foods, and we ought to be making our foods as naturally as possible. You can buy oats, you can buy millet, there is cornmeal, there is barley, there's a whole range of grains that you can be using to make your cereal in the morning. And we live in a society that is just very rushed. We're living under the shadow of the clock. And so it's easy to grab a box and pour that cereal into it and have our cereal. But really, you are not getting good nutrition. You may say, well, Pastor, what's wrong with a tin of beans? First of all, in the beans, you've got a lot of preservatives, because that tin of beans can stay on the shelf for a year or 2 years, and it's still good, and you know that that's unnatural. So you've got the sugar, you've got the coloring. So all of these things preserved, it's processed, and it's unhealthy. Whether you're taking in the fizzy drinks, whatever it is, the sweet biscuits, these are all unhealthy. You are not making pure blood, and that's the thing that we should be trying to do. So notice that we have two healthy options there, the bananas and the fruits, but everything else we really ought to think about carefully. What is it that you are putting into the system? Notice, I advise you to make your diet abstemious. Be sure that as rational Christian sentinels, you guard the door of your stomach, allowing nothing to pass your lips that will be an enemy to your health and life. God holds you responsible to obey the light that has been given you on health reform. The fire you kindle in your stomach is making your breath like a heated furnace. Eat much more sparingly and eat simple food, which does not require heavy seasoning. Your animal passion should be starved, not pampered and fed. The congestion of blood in the brain is strengthening the animal instincts and weakening the spiritual powers. Ellen White says that many of the problems that we have in church, many of the disputes, many of the arguments, is because you have not had a proper diet. You're not following a proper diet. And I really wish that I had noted where that quote came from. But many of the fights in church, many of the problems we have is due to poor dietary habits. So nature bears abuse as long as she can without resisting. And then she arouses and makes a mighty effort to rid herself of the encumbrances and evil treatments that she has suffered. Then comes headaches, chills, fevers, nervousness, paralysis, and other evils too numerous to mention. A wrong course of eating or drinking destroys health, and with it the sweetness of life. Oh, how many times have you purchased what you called a good meal at the expense of a fevered system? Loss of appetite and loss of sleep, inability to enjoy food, a sleepless night, hours of suffering, all for a meal in which taste was gratified. And beloved, let me just say that, you know what happens when we do not look after ourselves, or when we allow taste to be the dominant factor in the choices that we make. It's not just a decision for me, but when I get sick, it's the impact it's having on my wife, it's the impact it's having on those around me, those who have to look after me. So let us think about that, because none of us live to ourselves, and certainly none of us die to ourselves. So it's really, really important that we are making these vital and important decisions about diet. So 2/3 of the body's immune system lies in the gut, and of the trillions of cells in the human body, it is an amazing fact that 80% of the bacteria are to be found in the gastrointestinal tract. And so that's why we need to look after the gut. And the other thing is that there is a very close relationship between the gut and the brain. And so the gut microbiome, if you can look after that gut microbiome through eating properly, and then that will in turn have an impact on the quality of your mental health. That's how important it is. Okay, let me come back here. So I'm returning to the statement that I shared with you earlier. I'm doing it twice because it's so important. The stomach is the most abused organ in the body. So to take care of inherent weaknesses, we must take care of the whole person, but always the bowel first. If you take good care of the bowel, we can make the most of it and have better health as a result. So the bowel is king, says Dr. Jensen. And if we take care of the king, he will take care of his kingdom, which is our body. Genesis chapter 3 and verse 6. When the woman saw that the fruit of the tree was good for food and pleasing to the eye, and also desirable for gaining wisdom, she took some and she ate it. And I'm making an emphasis on the saw, because she saw and it appealed to the eyes, but the brain was not engaged. And very often, and I put my hand up, beloved, I've been there. You see the food and that pleases the eye, and I want it and I take it, but is it good for the body? And the Bible says that she saw that the fruit of the tree was good for food and pleasing to the eye, but it's not sufficient. It's not enough just to be pleasing to the eye and smelling nice, but is it good for the body? All disease begins in the stomach, but the mind is the key that unlocks the door to the stomach, all right? So remember that the food did not get there by itself. You made a choice. We made a choice. And so whether you are sick or whether you are healthy, it begins here. What goes into the stomach will determine the quality of your health. We can choose the kind of nutrition that goes in. We can choose the time it goes in. And so, we live here in Spain, and one of the things that we noticed very early on, Moreno and I, we'd gone away to Madrid, and we checked into our hotel, and we decided that we did not want to eat late. When we looked at the time that the hotel restaurant was going to open, we said, no, that's too late for us. So let's drive into town and find a restaurant. So we drove into town, into the city, only to find that all of them were the same. They were going to open at 7:30 in the evening, and that's too late for us. And so what we've noticed here in Spain is that folk are accustomed to eating late into the night, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, they're just sitting down to have a meal. Beloved, that's sowing the seeds for disease, because you eat that late, you go to bed on a full stomach, and you are laying the foundation for sickness. So notice, we choose the kind of nutrition that goes in. We choose the time it goes in. So even if you're eating the most healthiest meal and you're eating at 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock at night, then you're still laying the foundation for disease. And then we choose the type. We choose the quality of the food also that goes in. Here is a range of cruciferous vegetables. These are your cancer fighters. And so I just want to finish up sharing with you some tips for looking after your gut health. Eat whole foods. By whole foods, we mean food that has all the fiber in it. This is nutritious food that's going to sweep the colon and make sure that this is healthy for the body. Strive to eat 2 meals a day if you can, if it's possible, and always try, beloved, if you're going to, they say, eat like breakfast like a king. And so if you can, most people will not have the time, do not want to, but here we have our heaviest meal at lunchtime, and if we have anything again, it's a very light meal, very fruit or something like that. We are not eating into the evening. Do not drink with your meals. No eating between meals. Do not go to bed with a full stomach. Avoid processed foods. And then if you can, take some time out just to fast once a week, just to give that stomach a rest, or the other thing that I should say is that if you are finishing your last meal, let's say by 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, then you are having a 15 hours, 16 hours of fasting. That gives the stomach time to rest, and all that the stomach requires a lot of energy to digest a meal. So when the stomach is resting, all of that digestive energy goes into healing the body, healing and repair. So in that downtime, when you are not, when the stomach is resting, especially at night, then you are healing and repairing the body. And this is so very important. Go on a detox once in a while, maybe once or twice a year, have a detox. At the end of this program, this presentation, I will share with you a post for the detox program. Find out the beneficial effects of fasting for health and spirituality. We are a spiritual people, and fasting is one of the disciplines that we do. So again, fasting will allow that stomach to rest and the mind becomes clear. And then avoid wrong food combinations or too many food combinations. So as I close, let me just share with you Belloc and Breslov's 7 health factors for longevity. Number 1, sleep 7 to 8 hours per night. Number 2, and this is, let me just say, beloved, this is a study that these doctors did, Belloc and Breslov. They did a study to look at they looked at people who were long livers. These people lived a long, healthy life, and they then looked at their lifestyle to say, well, what are the factors? What were the factors that enabled these individuals to live so long? And they came down with 7 components, 7 key factors that enabled these people to live a healthy life. So this was common to all those who were living long lives. Sleep 7 to 8 hours per night. No eating between meals. They had breakfast regularly. So breakfast is a very important meal of the day. Maintain a proper body weight. Regular exercise. And I want you to notice this. July 17, 2012, not moving enough may be as hazardous to your health as smoking, a new study shows. The study, which is published in The Lancet, estimates that as many as 5.3 million deaths around the world were caused by physical inactivity in 2008. So exercise is crucial. In fact, Ellen White shares with us, and she says that the law of the universe is motion. Everything is in motion, and the only thing that's not moving is dead. So it's very, very important that we ensure that we get our exercise. Moderate or no use of alcohol. We would, as Seventh-day Adventists, we would say no alcohol at all. And then, of course, no smoking. So those were the 7 factors. And if we can practice those 7 factors, the things that I've talked about, in this presentation, then you will find that we can live healthier and live longer by God's grace. So thank you very much, beloveds. I've come to the end of this presentation. Now we'll take some time to have some questions. Hold on one time. Well, hold on a minute. Let me just try and finish up here. Stop video. That's it. Stop. Okay, Abigail, can you see? I'm trying to see if I can stop share. Okay, there we go. There we go. Got it. Sorry about that. Took me a while. Okay, so I'll be happy to take some questions.
Okay, thank you so much, Pastor Dr. Davis, for your presentation. Very informative, and I have learned a lot, even though I thought I knew a lot. And I agree. After certain times, I don't eat and I don't snack in between. And yes, if I do have a drink after a meal, it has to be hot. And I've learned that from my Chinese granddad. He said, you must have something hot after because the heat would help to dissolve the food better. If you drink something cold, it solidifies the food. So, yes.
And we'd want to allow some time to elapse before you have that drink as well.
Yes, about 30 minutes or more.
Yes.
So there's a question online. I think 6 of the health factor. Can you repeat these, please? So someone is asking if you could repeat the health factors. I think it's the one where you talked about
at the end. Yes, for sure. So number 1, sleep 7 to 8 hours. Okay. Number 2, no eating between meals. Number 3, having a healthy breakfast. Number 4, maintaining a good body weight. Number 5, exercise. Number 6, abstinence from alcohol. And then number 7, no smoking.
I think another question is what food, what food would you recommend for a healthy, what food you recommend for a healthy diet? For someone with autoimmune disease, what food would you recommend?
Okay, you know, the healthy diets that we've talked about here. I have a book, Abigail, that I can share with you on diets for people with autoimmune diseases. Okay, and you know, if you're looking at your seeds, you're looking at your nuts, you're looking at eliminating foods that will cause inflammation in the body. So what I will do is I will share that book with you so that the person who's asking that question, they will be able to get hold of that, because it shares a lot of recipes for those with autoimmune diseases.
Okay, so basically avoid foods that will cause any inflammation building up, or that's the answer, basically.
That's great. Well, you want to make sure, but what you really need to do, yes, for sure, is to avoid inflammation, because a lot of these things are caused by inflammation in the body. You know, fried foods. If you're looking at the processed food, so it's what we've talked about during this presentation. So if you are eating these foods, then you're taking toxins into the body, which is feeding the autoimmune disease. So I will share the book with you.
Okay. Any other question? Any question from anyone else in here?
Abigail, you need to speak up.
Okay, one more.
Abigail, you need to speak up a bit more.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. So Sister Dutlin has a question. I'm just going to pass.
Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great. How many hours should you allow between meals?
Yes, so ideally 5 hours. If you can go for 4 hours and then give the stomach to enter into that rest period for an hour. So we're looking at 5 hours. If you're eating at 8 o'clock in your breakfast, then 1 o'clock lunch. I don't know if your work schedule would permit that, but it means that you could have breakfast a little earlier. But ideally, 5 hours between.
So 5 hours between meals. You got that.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Any other question? Anyone online or anyone else in here with a question? Okay, so there seem to be no more questions. So what I got from thank you. First of all, I would like to say thank you very much to Dr. Sam,
It's a
Pastor.
pleasure.
Okay, yes. So from November 23rd to October, from October the 23rd of October to the 1st of November, there's going to be a starting of the reclaim, reduce, and resetting of your body. If you're interested in that, just please let me know, and I can then forward you the information. But in doing so, you will be reclaiming your energy and your vitality and your health, and you'll be reducing toxins, reducing your weight, reducing brain fog. Who doesn't want to do that? I most certainly would like to get rid of my brain fog that I normally have. And I know the reason for my brain fog, even though, I hope you're not embarrassed by this, Pastor Davis, but I've got to tell this story. It's the first time I was invited to Pastor Davis and Sister Rena's house. Yes, I was a vegetarian, but I wasn't a vegan. So when I was invited, the person invited me. I don't think he knew because I don't think the person disclosed it. I went, vegan? I do not think so. That can't taste good. But when I got there, I was pleasantly surprised. That was what made my mind up, and I recognized, look, I can go from vegetarian to vegan. So Pastor Davis and Sister Rena, you are a testimony that I could move from vegetarian to vegan and it could still taste good. Okay.
Amen.
So I would encourage each and every one of us as much as we can, as Pastor Davis said. We're aware that not everyone is Adventist or even everyone is Christian or everyone might want to change their diet. But if you choose not to avoid alcohol and meat and these things, then we say try and use them in moderation. Think about goal going forward where you put less of certain things on your, less of the unhealthy food on your plate and more of the healthy one. And with time, you will acquire a taste for the healthy things. So we don't expect you to go cold turkey, but if you choose to go cold turkey, see Dr. Davis about it. He will get you through the cold turkey nicely with some nice vegan food, okay, in his seminars. So I'd like to thank you once again for joining us all the way from Spain. And I'd like to send my regards to the lovely Sister Rohina as well for allowing you to share this time with us. And I got
Yes,
to
thank you, Abigail. Thank you. It's a
Well-
pleasure to be there with you. It's good to see my friend Vetlin. Hi, Vetlin, and it's good to see Dr. Audrey.
Hello, Pastor.
I just want to
So,
say hi to
if
the
I just
congregation.
ask for
Oh,
those
thank you so
online,
much for a beautiful lecture. Thank you, Pastor.
Thank
Dr.
you.
Doc, thank you.
I was just going to say, if the guys that are online, if you'd like to unmute yourself and you can say your thank you or whatever you'd like to do to Dr. Davis, please. If you'd like to
Thank
unmute.
you. Thank you. I just saw this on Facebook, and I just decided to join.
All right, good
That's
to
how
see
I
you.
joined. I didn't really, it was a very good program, I must say.
Yeah, amen.
I'll be thinking of it.
Don't think for too long, my sister. There is the 23rd of October to the
Yeah,
1st of
yes,
November
yes,
where
Abigail.
you could get on board, okay? Because
No.
as the word of God says, he wished that we should all be in good health, prosper, and be in good health as our soul prospered. So you want to be in there for the 23rd of October and to the 1st of November. Before the new year.
I eat healthy. I do eat healthy. But I need to do more. I need to do a little better.
Okay, and remember, Dr. David says that our bowel is the king. And if
Yep.
we care for the king, then the king will take care of the kingdom, which is our
That's
body,
right.
the whole
That's
of the
right.
body. So if we remember these points and not just remember them, but put them into practice, you will see, because as Dr. David said, it's not just in this life, the next life that God wants us to prosper and be in good health. He also wants us to prosper and be in good health in this life. Okay?
Amen.
So thanks once again for joining us. And we wish you all the very best in Spain. And I
Thank
know
you.
it's still quite early, so do enjoy the rest of your Sabbath and give your family our love and regard.
Okay,
Thank
God
you.
bless you. All the best, everyone. God bless.
Bye.